where I'm at right now. So the sheet that I work off of, I have a very loose teaching style, is this one right here. So I started thinking to myself, if I only had 10-15 minutes to give you my insight of homeownership, what would it look like? How would you go through the process? And instantly, being the nerd that I am, I started thinking about this game way back in the day. Does anybody know the game?
No.
It's Pitfall. From Atari actually released it. Atari released it. Pitfall. And so I started thinking about this, and I'm like, you know what? It really is a pitfall that we're trying to save people from pitfalls in homeownership, and also credit, and also mortgages. The whole point of being professional is to try to help people through the process as best as we possibly can. Okay, so that's my goal. That's how I see it. Whether or not I'm helping a person buy a home, rent a home, lease a home, sell a home, whatever it is, I'm trying to prepare us for any potential pitfalls. So the first step I started thinking about was, all right, you have to be realistic with yourself when it comes to home ownership. You have to ask yourself, is this the right time? Even if you're looking to make a move in, let's say, leasing, like you're gonna rent more, you're gonna go from renting a $700 a month home to $1,500 a month. Is this the right time to do it? And there are a lot of things you gotta ask yourself. You gotta have that very serious conversation with yourself and with your significant other, your family. Do you have the money to make the transition? Do you have the time to make the transition? Because home ownership can take, at a minimum, 30 days. At its maximum, I've had deals, and Todd would probably relate, that I've had deals that have taken upwards of 60 days or longer because of unforeseen circumstances. So you got to ask yourself, is the time right? The other thing is is this time right? Is you got to ask yourself, have you gone through the proper channels of pre-qualification? Because with home ownership, it's not just like, oh, I want to go check out homes. All right, have I spoken to a mortgage professional like Todd from Guaranteed Rate? Can I actually afford the homes that I'm looking for? What I find a lot of times, is I find a lot of people getting so amped up because thankful to Zillow and Truly and all those websites. I want to go out and look at these houses. I'm like, wait. Have you been pre-qualified appropriately? Meaning, have you gone through document underwriting? Has a mortgage lender seen your W-2s, your taxes, your credit score? Have you worked on your credit at all? Have you done any of the steps necessary to go through what they call document underwriting to prove whether or not you can actually make this jump? So that's also definitely something to consider in the process. Another thing to consider in the process is you got to think about what you're trying to get into in terms of a home, whether or not it's realistic, like single family home, condo, townhome, things of that nature. So I always recommend when you start with the steps. Start with the idea, is this the right time? Just because it's not the right time now doesn't mean it won't be the right time 6 months from now, or the better time 6 months to a year from now. And that's, once again, it's all about education, be prepared. So step 2, moving on. So let's say it is the right time. Let's say you have the cash, let's say you have the credit, let's say you have the time, let's say you have everything sorted out. You've gone through document underwriting, you're ready to make the move. Now this can go on both sides. This could go on buying a home and also selling a home. Let's say you've gone through all these steps. Now with this one, with buying a home, what are you looking for in your new home? I have been on the road hundreds of times showing properties, and at first I was very naive. I didn't really know what I was doing. And I would waste so much time looking at homes. I felt like I was getting free tours of South Florida. Like this, what I call drapery squeezers. Like they're like, oh, this is so nice. Like they can't afford this $500,000 house, but we're here anyway. So when you learn through the process, you're like, all right, well, what are you trying to look for in your new home? You got to ask yourself, are you looking for a single family home, condo, a townhouse? Are you looking for something with an association? Are you prepared to handle an association? Are you prepared to handle renovations? Do you need to be pet friendly? What are the pet restrictions? What are the rules and regulations of the association? What are the articles of incorporation for association? What are the voting rights? What are the rental restrictions? There are all these different components of what you need to have ready before you step on that road, okay? Along with the other basics is room count, square footage, type of home, whether or not you want to fix me up, or whether or not you want something that's move-in ready, new construction versus old. All these sorts of questions have to be answered. And what I do a lot of times every time with my customer now, we have a very heart-to-heart conversation about, hey, listen, I don't want to waste your time. I surely don't want to waste my time. We need to make sure that what we're looking at is applicable to what you need in your life. I also try to coach people, especially for those a little later in life, a little more seasoned. I say, listen, if you're buying a home that you're planning to be in for the next until you're 70, 80 years old, you got to think about stairs, accessibility if you're in a chair one day, carpet versus tile, all these different little nuances. So moving along, let's say you do automatically identify what you want, the searching process. The searching process for homes is a tricky one, but I recommend there are a couple simple steps that you can go through when you're searching for a property to help you through that process. The thing is to have a checklist. I always recommend whenever I take any of my customers out, it's not this one, whenever I take my customers out, I have a one-sheeter, and the one-sheeter will give that customer all the specifics about that property. And my sheet will actually will be in order of the properties we're seeing. It'll be stapled together, and I'll hand it to my customer and I'll say, here, I want you to have this, and as we go through the properties, I want you to make notes. I want you to circle things, highlight things, take pictures, because I guarantee you, after we see 5, 10, 15, 20 properties, you're not gonna be able to make sense of this. I do this for a living, and I can barely remember what I had for breakfast, let alone, the 20th house we saw. So that's one thing when you're searching. The other thing when you're searching is you want to make sure that it meets number one, what you identified in the last slide, but also that you have the mindset of, if I find something that I want to purchase that meets my needs, I'm going to make that jump. I've seen a lot of people go out, get super amped up about a property. They're like, yeah, I love this house. And then they get to that push comes to shove time, right? Okay, well, Dave, we're gonna prepare this offer. We're gonna prepare this offer. I don't clear my throat a lot when I talk. So when we're gonna prepare this offer, and that's when they get cold feet. So you gotta go in there with the mindset, like, if this home meets what you're trying to get, your main goal, be prepared to pull the trigger. I'm not gonna force anybody to do it, but I'm gonna here to help coach you through that process. So let's say you search and you found that home that you want. Now, this is where things get interesting. This is the second to last step, and this is a really interesting step. Offers, inspections, and mortgages. Now, up to this point, you've already gone through document underwriting. Up to this point, you've already identified the homes that meet your need. Up to this point, you've saved up the money, you have the time frame, you're ready to rock and roll. You found the home and the offer goes in. Once the offer goes in, the real estate professional like myself is here to help guide you through that process. There are time constraints in a contract that if you don't stay within those time constraints, what happens 9 times out of 10 is you fall out of contract. And when you fall out of contract, all your escrow money, the money you put as a down payment, as a good faith deposit to the owner, you can lose it. Because once you slip out of contract, you're out of contract, you're in default, and technically if the other realtor is smart enough to know this, which not all of them are, but some of them, some of them are, if they're smart enough to know this, you could put in a form that forces them to say, listen, you're out of contract, I want that cash, or at least up to 50% of that cash. So timeframes and offers are vital. Now, in terms of the nuances, contracts are usually anywhere from 12 to 14. I've seen them long pages. And if you have any questions through the process, that's why a real estate professional like myself can answer those questions for you, but obviously seek legal advice, and we recommend legal real estate attorneys from time to time, depending on the complexity of the offer, because it can help through the process. Inspections. Now, you may or may not know this. When you buy a home, you should get an inspection on it. I highly recommend it. There are probably 3 in particular that you're going to have to do. General inspection, which looks at the overall general essence of the property, what it looks like. Wood damaging organism inspections, those lovely little things called termites and silverfish and all those like nasty little critters that live in the wood. You get one of those wood damaging organism inspection reports, and then the last report's a 4-point wind mitigation inspection, or 4-point and wind mit. They're not the same, but they're together. 4-point and wind mitigation basically show the bank that your house can stand up against a hurricane. And not gonna be totally destroyed. And I'm using these very loosely, and they're a lot more technical, but that's like a basic idea. Now, one thing also is once you're through this step, not only will you have to put money in down payment, but you're gonna also have to pay for these inspections out of pocket. This is not a refundable expense. So I've seen inspections range from anywhere $250 to $400 and up. So if you're getting 3 different inspections at $250 a pop or $300 a pop, that could be almost $1,000 out of your pocket before you have any sort of keys or anything like that. So you need to have that cash available and make sure that it doesn't bleed into your reserves. And then also the other thing that you'll be paying for through this step is the appraisal. And Todd will talk about this more about the mortgage world. The appraisals you're gonna have to pay for also. The bank doesn't pay for it because if the bank paid for it, it'd kind of be a biased opinion. They can't do that, so you pay for it. And appraisals, I've seen them as high as $450, $400 plus or minus. So now out of pocket, you got to come out $1,400, $1,500. before you even have the keys, before you even know if this property is going to work out for you. That's why it's so important at the beginning, right? To understand, are you ready for this process? You know, are you ready? You know, have you done your homework? Do you know the types of homes you're looking for? Because I've seen it time and time again where people go out and with other real estate professionals and they are not ready for this process at all. So the last step is closing and beyond. So the closing table is rather unique. I've had some times where people break out screaming at each other for some weird reason on closing tables, and I've had other closings where the people aren't even in the same room. You know, they're mail-aways, they live in another state, they sign papers digitally, you know, so on and so forth. But with the closing, you gotta make sure to bring, and I'm sure Todd will touch on if I miss anything, you're gonna have to bring your ID, and that's usually it. And your wiring instructions, meaning the bank will inform your lender, your mortgage company, where to send the money. So it sits in the title company. A title company is going to be chosen throughout this process, but I don't want to make things too complicated because the title company will also work alongside the mortgage company together to make it, you know, check for title searches, all that kind of stuff. Now, the reason why I put beyond is something that I learned firsthand as let's call it a learning curve. Is that when you move to your new home, whether or not you're leasing or you're going to buy or something, or let's say you're selling even, I recommend to get those large vanilla envelopes, and I probably even pronounced that wrong. You know, the manila envelopes, the yellow, whatever brown color. Get 2 or 3 of those, put your new address on the front of it, and then self-stamp it, so that the homeowner that's coming into your home, like let's say you're renting your home, you're having a new tenant come in, or you're selling your home and someone's buying the home, they have an envelope that they can put all your mail in and send it. Because I've seen people where they won't do that, and then their mail gets lost, and things just get complicated. So that's one thing that I recommend for the beyond. The other thing that I recommend for the beyond is the mere fact of making sure that you save up for your taxes appropriately. Because what happens a lot of times with mortgages is that I was even misled, was that they didn't plan for my taxes the right way. So when you buy a property, 9 times out of 10, you're going to pay whatever your taxes. You're going to pay whatever your taxes are for the year prior to. So let's say I sell my house, right? And my taxes, I bought my house 10 years ago. And my taxes are $2,000 a year. Well, year 1, your taxes are going to mirror, your new taxes are going to mirror that $2,000. But guess what's going to happen? The county's going to reappraise your property for a new value that you bought it at. It's going to jump your taxes, hike your taxes up. And if you don't have tax money saved up, then you're in escrow deficiency. And now the mortgage company is going to write you a nice little letter. Trust me, I can show you mine. They're going to write you this nice little letter. Oh, just let you know you owe us $2,600 in taxes for the year 2018. If you do not pay us, you will have your mortgage payment will go from, I was paying $1,200 a month to $1,500 a month to make up for that escrow deficiency.
Wow.
So that's why once again, the idea behind this whole little conversation is this, to save you from the pitfalls that I went through. So I encourage you for the beyond section just to think to yourself, well, you know what? Maybe I should put a little aside extra money, or better yet, talk to your mortgage broker and say, listen, I want to be prepared for the year 2 taxes so that you can put a little aside. So that's my spiel, guys, on the home buying process. It's pretty generalistic. But my information's all on the bottom. Not that you guys don't know who I am, but my information's all on the bottom if you want to talk or chat later. And we'll have a little section at the end also if you have any questions or anything like that. So I'm going to hand it off over to Robert, who's going to be talking about the credit world, which is utterly fascinating.